Hi everyone, welcome to Wildcat Economics. I'm Andrew Kinsley, co-host of the show, and I want to personally thank you for tuning in for our latest episode, talking to Jen and Jeremy Holmes of Taboo Pizza. Now, in launching this new venture, we have been learning a lot of things, and especially in this episode. This episode is about half as long as we wanted it to be. In the process of recording, our good audio stopped recording about halfway through. So this episode has been pared down. You'll see the last couple of minutes I've tried to piece together some of the bad audio just to wrap up that part of the discussion. And hopefully we'll have Jen and Jeremy on to kind of reconstruct the latter part of that conversation at a later date. But the core of this conversation and what they had to say was just too good to scrap the whole episode. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I apologize for the bad audio right at the end there. We've added some captions to help you get through it. We're still not entirely sure what happened. Whether the computer went to sleep, it could be Connor's fault, who knows. But we'll figure out these glitches, and we'll try to make sure that each episode is better than the last. Thank you, and enjoy this one.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Wildcat Economics. It's October 6th, 2025, and we are here with Jeremy and Jen Holmes, the owners of Taboo Pizza. Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
It is a beautiful autumn afternoon. Autumn's probably my favorite time of year. Speaking of Taboo Pizza, they have two locations now. There's the original one on Harrison that opened in 2019 right here by the university. And then they have the relatively newer location right there on Riverside by the best way to describe it is by that Ogden Arch that says Ogden right there. And if you're listening, I want you to kind of do a visualization experiment. I want you to visualize you're sitting on this beautiful patio on a crisp autumn afternoon. You're watching the leaves fall, and you're having maybe your favorite adult beverage. You know, for me, it's probably Diet Coke and Coke mixed. That's my my go-to. And it smells great. The music's good. And then you hear maybe out of your right ear someone say, "Hey, sir, your pepperoni pizza's ready." That is the image I get when I think about eating at Taboo Pizza. They're on Riverside. It's my favorite place. And so, happy to have you guys on. And congrats on that new location. It's a great area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to give you some time to introduce yourselves. You know, maybe talk about your background, how you started Taboo Pizza, how things are going. I would love to get to know both of you, Jeremy and Jen.
Okay. Do you want to start or do you want me to?
No, you've got the whole spiel. I'll just let you run with it.
Well, first off, we're not restaurant people. We're crazy project people. And at the time that we came across the opportunity to open up on Harrison, we were actually training to go to Everest Base Camp. To hike in, see how our bodies did at altitude, see whether or not it was something that we could push for a higher peak. So we'd been training for a year, and over the course of that year, we were on a very strict diet, very strict exercise program, but we had one day a week that we would cheat on our diet, and that was Sunday.
Nice.
And so we would go out for a heavy workout Sunday morning, and then on our way back, we would call our favorite pizza shop, which was the Pizza Runner.
Yeah.
And if you remember them, fantastic pizza, great people. And we would call them up, say, we're 25 minutes out, that about when you guys can have our pizza ready. They'd say, sure, and we'd show up, and the doors would be closed, and locked, and the lights would be off. It's like, we literally talked to you like 25 minutes ago. And it just kept getting more and more like that, and over the course of that year, unfortunately, they ended up going out of business. And the owner of that building called us up and said, hey, I heard about you from some of the staff members that were working at the Runner, and they said that you're crazy project people. I'd like to keep a pizza restaurant here. Have no idea how to be able to do a pizza restaurant. Can you come and talk to us? So we sat down at Grounds for Coffee right next to where the shop is, and met with him and said, do you have the finances to be able to remodel your building? Because your building needs to be remodeled. No. Do you have pizza recipes? No. Do you have dough recipes? No. Do you have sauce recipes? No. Have you ever run a pizza shop? No. It's like, okay. And we looked at each other and went, well, we don't have dough recipes. We don't really have the finances to do this. We don't have restaurant experience. But we looked at each other and went, sure,
Why
why
not?
not?
Yeah, that sounds like a true American entrepreneurship
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
story.
So we did, and we jumped in. He gave us the keys to the building in November, and from that point, we got in, started doing the cosmetic work that needed to be done, started learning everything that we needed to know about the pizza industry. Jen got into the scientific mode behind developing dough recipes. I did the sauce recipes.
Very cool.
We remodeled the building, and the next year, we each worked 6,348 hours.
That sounds like a lot.
To put
In
that
1 year?
In 1 year.
One year.
Okay, so for context there, the typical person works 80 hours a
In
year.
a year. Yep.
That's a 40-hour week.
Correct.
So 60,000 or
6,348 hours.
compared to 2,000. Yeah.
So
That's a little
bit. We were doing 20 and 22-hour days, 7 days a week. It averages
Wow.
out to about 17 and a half hours a day. We were sleeping for 15-minute increments on the concrete floor in the dish pit while dough's mixing, while sauce is rendering down, just to be able to get ready for the next day's service. When you're going into a business and you think, okay, I can go ahead and do this, and then you start realizing, oh my goodness, this is a bigger project than we've ever taken on to be able to make this. And the food industry, they tried to warn us that it's different.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is.
It is,
It is
yeah.
not a normal business.
I can only
So-
imagine. We just tried to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're even like, okay, how does this work? Camera angles and audio and mixing and all this. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and you're-
definitely
so-
not what you do, though.
You're saying the food industry is different, or specifically pizza itself?
The food industry.
Food industry.
Gotcha.
Just in general, when we've talked and we've gotten to know restaurant owners and different individuals and that have worked in different fields, and the food industry is one, you don't leave it behind.
Yeah.
It is there every single day. There's not a time to be able to say, hey, we're going to shut down and go on vacation for a week.
Yeah.
Oh, our staff didn't show up, so I guess we can close the shop. It's still, you are running constantly. People expect you to be there.
Making me feel bad now, holding you hostage for an hour now.
Oh, don't. You're giving us a break.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Jen, did you think, hey, this should be easy? Making pizza doesn't seem crazy.
Yeah, no. But, I mean, we've done lots of different businesses, and in our minds, it was very much, we can run a business. This is just
Yeah.
another business. And it is, but there's a whole nother level to the food industry. And the margins are very, very low. And the hours that you have to work, the 7 days a week, every day of the year, even when you
Yeah.
are closed, you're in there, you've still got to be prepping everything. You're going to lose product if you don't.
Yeah.
There's a time that you just, we were so cute going into this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on top of that, then later on down the road, you said, you know what, we've mastered this, or let's open up a new location, but a completely different dynamic.
Yeah.
Sit down restaurant with a bar, outdoor patio, the whole bit. So, walk me through that decision.
We're special.
Well, the decision came a few years ago when I contracted non-COVID related pneumonia that just about killed me. And we realized that these 7 days a week, 16-hour days, they couldn't be sustainable. We had to grow. We had to have a bigger footprint in things. So we started at that time looking for an additional location. 2 years ago, the owner of the building that we're in contacted us through his representative and said, hey, I've got this space here. It's been empty for a while. I haven't wanted to do anything, but I'm ready to do something with it. Would you guys be willing to talk to us about it? And we looked at ourselves, looked at each other, and again went,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do
Well,
this.
He did more of that. I was doing more of the, we're halfway across the lake with no arms and no legs. You want to keep going to the other side. I kind of want to go back.
Yeah.
But you really are at that point. It's you either go forward or you stay stagnant. And we just didn't want to stay stagnant. We didn't want to just be a mom and pop shop where we're providing our own job.
Right.
That's not what we got into this for. While we can do it, we don't want to do that. So it was
Yeah.
okay. We got to get to the other side of the lake without those arms and legs and the piranhas attacking. So
And that's
Yeah.
exactly it. And so we jumped in. It took us about, I'd say 6 to 7 months to actually negotiate the contract for the building and to be able to get through it, because the whole building had to be redesigned. It was Slackwater's kitchen in there. My hat is off to those guys. The fact that they could do the amount of volume out of that size of a kitchen blew us away because we couldn't even fit one of our ovens in that kitchen.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we worked with the owner, redesigned the whole building, and came up with a new concept, helped them get in contact with some other individuals to be able to fill some empty space, and ran from there and opened it's been about 4 months ago now.
Yeah, and Andrew, you've been in there recently.
Just a couple weeks ago. I don't get out a whole lot. I have 2 small children that are involved in everything, and so we rarely have the time to actually sit down. And it was a couple Sundays ago, I think, and my wife was like, "Hey, we're gonna, let's go out to eat. We haven't done it in a while." And I was like,
Nice.
I know where we're going. Like, I should probably know something about the people that I'm going to be interviewing. So there are definitely perks to this job, and that it at least convinces my wife to let me go and have some amazing pizza in just a great setting. Actually, I didn't even have the pizza. I was like, I'm going to get one of the sandwiches. It was so good. It was so good. The kids absolutely loved their food. The location's fantastic. We were out on the back patio, joggers going by, with their dogs and everything like that. It was just a nice Sunday afternoon. It was fantastic.
I'm glad you enjoyed your experience.
Yeah.
I survived. So I was a student at Weber State, and I kind of survived Weber State by doing the lunch special at the Harrison. So I'd been there. I think it was you'd get a slice or two and a drink and some doughboys, however you say that. And yeah, that's nostalgic to me. When I think of my time at Weber State, I think of Taboo Pizza and grabbing a slice there. So it's been great.
Having eaten pizza almost every day for the last 6.5 years and not being sick of it, I can understand.
I'm telling you, if I could offer some advice, I need a surprise me button on that order. Like, there's sometimes like, okay, my kids, they're gonna want, this and this, but like you look up and down that menu, and my wife and I are just like, I don't know. Like, I'm sweating thinking about all the choices. Like, is this the one that I want, or is this the one that I want? I need like you just go.
Yeah, they probably all be good. Sure. Before we move on, I just want to take one step back. How did you handle COVID? We know that COVID started around 2020. We mentioned you opened in 2019. So you probably had this idea of that first year, okay, now we've got our second year coming. It should be relatively the same. And then boom, pandemic happens, disposable income dries up. How did you handle the challenge of 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, that was a crazy time. We just had to hit the ground fast. It's what's going on, what changes do we have to make, so that we could stay ahead of that. We immediately had to shut down our dine-in, which we had at that point, and really launch the takeout, getting everything put together. Our biggest concern was our staff, that we just wanted them protected. So we wouldn't let our staff help any customers, period. So Jeremy and I had to adjust to where we are the only ones interfacing with our customers, because we didn't want we had mostly young kids working for us, and we needed them to be able to come back to work for starters, but we don't want them getting sick. And so we had to transition all of that, and just all of the ongoing essential. we were essential employees at the time, and it was exhausting.
I can imagine.
So you want to get into kind of the numbers of how that launched?
Jen nailed it. It's you have to adapt quickly to ever-changing things that are going on. And COVID's just one example. Every single day in business, something else can come up. And so we were able to adapt our model very, very quickly. What was great about pizza is it's one of those things that people can grab and take home. It's not like your steak restaurant where you get your steak, you want to be cutting into it right there. You know that it's medium, but if you travel with that for 15 minutes, now it's not as good. Your baked potato's not as good. Whereas pizza actually travels very well. So we went in a flip problem that most restaurants had, where our business was steady. It was going along, but it doubled overnight.
Right.
And we didn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to manage that. And then from there, it just kept growing and growing and growing. We reached capacity during COVID for that restaurant about 3 to 4 months into COVID.
Wow.
And then what we ran into were the number of staff that weren't available, or their parents were pulling them back saying, I don't want to lose my job, so you can't go work. I can't have you exposed anywhere. And so then you've got all this extra work that you're doing, but no staffing to be able to do it. product. You can't get products. There was one time when we ran out of pepperoni. You're a pizza shop. You have to have pepperoni.
That would make me what?
So, but thankfully, the Circle Inn down in Sunset, they actually had an extra 25 pounds. They sent it up to us until we could get our pepperoni in, and they're great individuals. So
Cool.
Yeah.
So we adapted. We bobbed quickly.
Yeah.
Very cool. So,
And
go for it.
I was just gonna say, did you climb Everest?
We didn't. We actually ended up canceling our trip. So we had never planned on climbing Everest. There's a couple of smaller peaks that are in the area that are only about 21,000, 22,000 feet. And we just wanted to see how our bodies would do at that level of altitude in Nepal. And so we had a group of guys that we were going with, and they ended up going without us in that March because we opened for business. And they ended up going, and we're now just at that point where we're starting to train again to be able to take on another project.
I think it would have been easier, though, if we had done Everest.
Yeah.
And it would have been over,
That's true. That's true.
That is a great quote for the podcast. It would have been easier to climb Everest than open Taboo Pizza.
It actually, we firmly believe that.
Yeah,
Wow,
I
that's
can imagine.
awesome.
I can imagine.
That's awesome.
So a lot of kind of what I want to start with, again, the purpose of the podcast being, let's take some of these national, international news cycles and kind of see how they're impacting us here in northern Utah. So you talk about COVID, that's a big one, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a once in a generation, hopefully, type of dynamic. And then you recover from that, you come back, and then let's talk international, right? You talk February 2022, all of a sudden you get this Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yep. And, a lot of people would say, well, that's a smaller country invading another smaller country kind of thing. There's no way it can really impact us here.
It's on the other side of the world.
It's on the other side of the world. But something I try to emphasize in my classes is that everything globally is interconnected right now. Even if it's, you're talking about an area that is the breadbasket of the world in Ukraine. It's the soil there is some of the richest soil on the planet. And so much grain comes out of that area that if you disrupt that grain market, it will impact the grain market here in the United States. So did you see anything like that? We're talking about grains, you're talking about doughs,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we were shocked. When we heard the news that Russia had invaded the Ukraine, we thought, as countries on the other side of the world, they're doing their political infighting again. Yep. Oh, man, I hate that this is going on. At the time, we didn't know that the Ukraine was the largest grain producer in the world. Right. We came to find that out very quickly as our dough, when we're manufacturing our dough, you have certain levels of moisture that you target, certain levels of protein in the flours that you use to be able to create that. And you develop your recipes, and they're down to a science. And then all of a sudden, our dough is breaking down. The water's breaking down in our dough, and we're looking at it going, what is going on here? The pizzas are sticking to pans. They're not stretching correctly. They're not tasting the same way. And so we're looking at this going, how do we adjust to this, and what is this? And so we're working on producing, and we actually produce all of our dough off-site. And we use space with another company here to produce that dough, and we're working with that company and trying to figure out what this is. It took us about 6 months to be able to find out that what had happened is because of the war in Ukraine, futures for grain had been impacted, and what that did for our local flour manufacturer here, which is Big J up in Brigham City, they couldn't mill the flour from the grains because they didn't know what the cost of the commodity was on any given day. So it takes the flour about 60 to 90 days to dry out completely before it should actually be used in making dough. When you mill it and then you're sending it out 3 days, 4 days, 5 days later to be used in dough, a bread isn't going to fill that as much as a pizza crust will. But that introduced a whole lot more moisture into our dough recipe. So as we're adapting, currently we're mixing our dough 100% longer than what we were mixing it when we first started.
Wow.
We've had to reduce the amount of moisture that we put into the dough and change that to be able to maintain the flavor profile, the cook profile that we wanted to be able to do. So something happening on the other side of the world, dramatic impact on what we saw here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's, like I said, everything is interconnected. You talk about it's going through the futures market, and it just ends up in this uncertainty where you have a company that we don't know what's going on over on this other, on the other side of the world, and that throws our business in for a loop, and then that subsequently throws your business for a loop, and it takes you. I mean, you were saying 6 months to make that adjustment.
Yeah, we actually hit a point because we're very picky, and we took our pizza home one night and bit into it, and we're like, we're going to have to close down. Now, most people wouldn't have noticed the flavor difference, but we're high on quality. We use high quality ingredients, and for us, it's like I wouldn't want to spend any money on this. It's not our standard, and so we actually looked at saying, are we going to have to shut this down?
Wow.
Well, and our dough is different as well. So most pizza places are going to make their dough the day of, sometimes the day before. You're using it right away. They probably wouldn't even notice something like this. We do a cold proof. Our dough is proofing for 8 to 10 days in a refrigerator, and that's where that breakdown was happening. So our dough was deteriorating before it could even get to the point that it's at that sweet spot. Wow. And so it was very frustrating, especially with us being perfectionists. I'm like, we put way too much into this to have this failing and not being able to pin it down. No idea that they had changed something with the flour coming in. We expected the cost raising, but not, now we're going to have to adjust our entire process.
It is fascinating. The economic side of this is, there's an event that happened, the war in Ukraine. I think when most people heard about the war in Ukraine, they had to do what I did, which was get on Google Maps and figure out where Ukraine is and, what the whole thing is. That event impacted an economic event, which you're mentioning the futures, which explain that to me like I'm a child.
Sure. So especially in commodities, a lot of the contracts it's basically a contract that says, I agree to pay a certain price in the future to take on this commodity. And so that's what we get into these future
So that event was affecting those future contracts, which was impacting Big J, their ability or their decision-making making the purchasing, which impacted the timing, which impacted your piece of pizza when you took a bite into it.
Yeah. Wow. Like I said, it's all interconnected. Everything, anything that happens on the other side on the planet. I mean, even looking at what we're dealing with now, right? Commodity prices are, all over the place right now. We talk about tariffs, whether or not they're there or they're pushed back, or are they, we're still waiting to hear if some of these are even legal and if they'll be repealed again. And that's going to throw some of these, especially these financial markets, into disarray, and it's going to cause kind of a freeze in what people are doing. We talked in our last episode about some of the jobs numbers that have been coming out.
So as you can see, the audio gets substantially worse. If you can believe it, that was only about 2 minutes of that poor quality audio right there. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I look forward to making many more episodes, bringing in people from around the community to talk about how these broader economic events impact us here in Northern Utah. So again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Wanna hear you go.